For more than 20 years, I've traveled the world to communities both large and small. Most have called themselves smart cities, with the latest and greatest technology, smart parking, smart traffic, lighting, and transit. But I wanted more than just smart. I was looking for what made the community a great place to live, to work, to start a family, launch a business, and make room for the next generation. My question was, how smart is your city, really? Well, let's find out, here on Intelligence Test. Welcome to Intelligence Test from the Intelligent Community Forum. I'm Robert Bell. In these conversations, we explore how local governments do the hard work that makes them, in our estimation, intelligent communities. Those are places that have created and maintained an innovative and growing economy that provides broad-based opportunity to their people. Places that develop and nurture a strong and inclusive society that helps people share their strengths and overcome their weaknesses. Places that build and preserve a rich local culture in which all can participate. And places that do all that in this super connected, unpredictable, accelerating digital century. Because these are the essential elements of a place where people and employers choose to be. Many cities and regions look to ICF to help them get there, to offer a strategic framework they can adapt to their unique needs, to assess where they stand today and their potential for progress, to provide economic and community development services to support them along the way, including certification as an intelligent community. You can learn more about all of that at intelligentcommunity.org. But today we're going to look at two of them, two very different cities in different nations, and address the question, how? How are they achieving so much? How do cities, suburbs, rural regions become intelligent? So to answer that question, we've invited the ICF auditors who went on location to assess two communities. One of them is my fellow ICF co-founder, John Jung, an urban planner and economic developer who has contributed to city development across Canada and around the world. And the other is Wendy Dupley, an experienced economic developer and past president of the Economic Developers Association of Canada. Welcome to the program, both of you.
Hi, Robert.
Hi.
I'm going to turn to John first and his recent audit of the Bursa Metropolitan Municipality in Turkey. Now, if you listen to our other podcast, The Intelligent Community, you may have heard from Demet Sinmez of Bursa. From John, however, you're going to get a view of the city from the outside in. So, John, would you give us an introduction to the city of Bursa?
Sure. Thanks, Robert. Great program. The idea of Bursa was founded many, many years ago as the first capital of the Ottoman Empire. It also is the end of the silk trade. You would think that it would be a massive community. In fact, what happened was it grew very little in those days, but in 5 decades, it grew substantially to 3.3 million people. And that was because it started to grow an industrial base and attracted some of the world's biggest industries in automotive, defense, food, but also textile related to the silk trade. The Ottoman Empire left and Turkey evolved with Istanbul being the main city about 2 hours to the north. And Bursa kept its heritage, it kept its soul, basically. And it has not only one, but 2 UNESCO sites. One up the hill in a village, very much village-like, and the other one is in an urban setting with very urban-like environments around it. So very beautiful town. The community is what they describe as between the shore and the mountains, which has tremendous tourism appeal. They ski up in the mountains, and of course they have beaches at the other end. And it's a very large community of 17 different districts. And that's why when I went to visit the metropolitan municipality of these 17 districts. And the mayor is like a regional chairman that we might have in places in the United States or Canada. dealing on a regional basis. So that's Bursa, and I'll tell you a lot about the different elements of Bursa as we go along in this intelligence test.
Absolutely. Thank you. Yes. And so far, you're passing with flying colors, John, just so you know. Now, for comparison, let's bring Wendy into this discussion. She did an ICF's audit of Hilliard, Ohio, in the US, not a city of 3+ million people. But they are the first U.S. community to achieve an intelligent community certification from us. So, same question for you, Wendy. Give us an introduction to this Midwestern city.
Absolutely. Well, we didn't have mountains and we didn't have ocean, John, but with Hilliard in central Ohio, it's really, I would say maybe just on the outskirts of Columbus, it borders Columbus. It's a community of 38,500 now. It's been rapidly growing over the last few years, as has all the central Ohio region. But it's a small city that really excels and punches above its weight, I think, with its intelligence, if you like. And I'm looking forward to sharing more of that as we go along. It's an impressive city because it already has a track record in the ICF Awards program. It's its third consecutive year as a top 7, which is astonishing in itself. But when you go to Hilliard, you discover really how progressive it is, what an amazing collaborative and innovative and culture-driven community it is. And consequently, the people it's attracting, its growth in millennials is outstanding, but it's attracting passionate entrepreneurs that are willing to collaborate with others. And it's giving the community not only its unique identity, but it's also a word that John used, I think, which is interesting. But I felt the community had a soul. It had its unique presence other than just being a suburb of Columbus. And I think, when you delve deeper into Hilliard and you see how fast it's grown over recent years, and I know we'll explore that further, to say that it's kept that culture and that soul and that is growing, I think is very impressive in itself. So yes, very interesting visit indeed.
I like what you said. I had the privilege of going there, as you know, and it's no accident that they kept that. They've worked really, really hard at it. So we'll talk more about that.
Mm.
So, John, coming back to you now, I want to talk about telecommunications because we all know that that is our new utility without which economic progress really isn't possible. Um, and these two cities are very different, actually, John. No, you're going to have to wait your turn. Wendy, just to stay with you for a minute.
Okay.
Hilliard took very specific steps to ensure that its people had that high quality broadband. What is that story and what are the results?
Yeah, the Hilliard story is very interesting because it really only started in 2019, so really not that long ago at all. At that time, Hilliard had changed its local government structure. It had become the local government had decided to hire a city manager shortly after that, and we'll talk a bit more about that, I'm sure. But the investment in technology was happening all around them. So you looked at all their neighbouring communities. Dublin, Ohio, of course, is well known in the ICF communities, another top 7. We had Westerfield, we had Hudson, we have a lot of Ohio communities that already have this fiber infrastructure. And consequently, all of the investment for technology-driven businesses was going to neighbouring communities and not to Hilliard. So Hilliard really turned things around in a space of 4 years, which is impressive in itself, really. And it really has illustrated that with not just with the right leadership, but with the culture of innovation and have that coupled with a roadmap, a strategic roadmap of how you're going to use that fiber can turn things around in such a space of time that they went from being, the tortoise and the hare race to being leaders within that region. And, when they look at the infrastructure that they currently have in place, and it grows year on year on year, if you look at the statistics, they're now up to over 71 miles worth of fiber owned infrastructure. It's throughout their commercial districts, it's moving into their residential. They've really been strategic in connecting with their partners. So you see it connected now to the Worthington area, key connections to Westerville and the data terminal, the data center there, and Grove City. And that's really increasing that collaboration again. And this collaboration is a key word in Hilliard, and you'll hear me talk about it a lot, culture and collaboration. And really, you see this fiber enabling not just technology-driven businesses to locate there, but it's also enabling school buildings to get connected. In fact, all of the school buildings throughout the whole of Hilliard now are connected to fibre. So it's driving that knowledge workforce as well. So I would say the infrastructure has been foundational for them, but it's that coupled with the soft culture of the community and the service attitude of their local government that is really attracting millennials, entrepreneurs, and tech-based businesses to locate in Hilliard. And you see that with their demographic numbers, and you see that with their business growths and the number of businesses that they have located in facilities such as their city lab, which now has, I think, 40 startups that's currently located. So without this investment in the infrastructure, I don't think any of that would have happened. I mean, 10 years ago, people probably just drove through Hilliard and not even noticed it was there. Now it has become a destination in the region.
You mentioned investment. One of the things that's always impressed me by them is the council spent its money very carefully. They basically built a little core network, a few $1 million, if I recall, in investment, and yet they leveraged all these partners to build out the rest. And it was just, it was really, really smart. In many, many cities, in markets where that's legal to do, can imitate that same thing. A small amount of investment can go a long way if you put it in the right place, right?
I think this just resonates, which I think is a core culture in Hilliard, and that's one of collaboration and partnerships. It really is everywhere that you turn.
Yeah. So, John, that's why I wanted to focus on Bursa here, because it's a totally different kind of telecom market over there, posing some interesting challenges for the city. And just could you tell us, what those challenges you think are and how the city is responding to them?
Sure. So, the Turkish market is dominated by what they call Turk Telecom, which has been around for over 100 and some odd years. And it's the first integrated telecom group that dominates 95% of the market. They've integrated in 2016 to include mobile, internet, TV, all sorts of other services that you can imagine. And basically, it's a 4G network. They're waiting for their 5G. It's been coming along. And in January of 2026, 5G will be available. But in Bursa, they have to decide what the priorities are. It's not going to be immediately available to everybody and everything. So they're going to be the municipality is going to be working with the service provider and service providers, because others will be involved. And I ask all the time, did the fact that they didn't have 5G affect a particular tech hub or an opportunity, of what we'll talk about later, called the model factory? And everyone said, no, we basically sell within a 4G market within Turkey, so there's no problem now. When everybody has 5G, we'll be out there with 5G. And they're going to be looking at future 6G and so forth as well. So it is a very progressive environment, but it's just not there yet with the 5G market within the Turk Telecom. So what's the municipality doing in between? Well, they're making available Wi-Fi in a variety of spaces They have 200 megabits available across 60% of their public areas. I went to several of those areas and it works quite well. Many of them are sort of condensed facilities. They've got museums and public spaces. There's smart park. There a variety of startups and support, what they call B Cube, and their smart city offices, all in one area. So it's also this concise and condensed area has all the technology and all of the capabilities that you can ever want within their context. The same thing with the tech park and with their what they call their model factory facilities. All of these are handled by a chamber of commerce that's a massive 57,000 members, mostly SMEs, and they use the technology in very innovative ways. And we'll talk about that a little bit later as well. But all of that is driven by this Turk Telecom environment at the moment. But they're getting ready for more competition, and I think there's a consideration of bringing in others in due course.
Yeah, well, but there you see the contrast, right? So Hilliard is able to do things that Bursa cannot because they haven't basically, I mean, they still have a monopoly. If you have 95% of the market, you have a monopoly. And we all know that monopolies don't move particularly fast. They prefer to make money from what they're doing today. So I think the city did fund itself a fiber network to connect all of its own facilities, which is generally speaking available everywhere. And I think that's what they're using. Am I right? That's
right.
What they're using,
so that's where their Wi-Fi,
right?
Their Wi-Fi is provided there, which is pretty extensive. We also see that they're using it for a variety of sensor networks.
Right.
They're using it in parks, what they call smart parks with sensor-driven watering capabilities. They also have they monitor in terms of crime or things that happen in parks. They also have illegal dumping that they monitor, and they use it for tracking excavation waste and a variety of other very innovative things. Right. So I give them a lot of kudos for that.
Yeah. Well, exactly. I mean, the takeaway for this in terms of being an intelligent community is that yes, you have barriers. Whoever you are, you have barriers. Intelligent communities say, okay, now what can we do within the barriers? And I think it's a great contrast there, right?
Well, so I kept talking about the difference between smart cities and intelligent communities. And I think they get it, even though they continue to use the terminology smart cities. When we discuss what that means is, well, they know that you can purchase a smart city out of a box and just have all sorts of tools and technology and so forth. But they understand that an intelligent community actually empowers people and empowers their ability to engage and do different things with the technology that we refer to as intelligent communities. So I think they get it, and they're working towards it in a way that a lot of other cities around the world, particularly cities that come through a process like they did, haven't gotten there yet.
Let me ask a question of you, Wendy, that I think we both know the answer to is, would you consider Hilliard to be an intelligent community for the same reason?
I think for slightly different reasons that they've already learned those lessons a long time ago. And I think, that it was really interesting hearing John about the use of Wi-Fi. And I really noted how much that's grown as well in Hilliard and how literally they can go to any park or pool now and have great Wi-Fi connection. They have about 5,000 users a month on the Wi-Fi network during peak summer times. So this is a really connected community right across the spectrum, I think, and just making it that sort of capability available for everybody, I think they have taken to heart. And certainly enabling even less fortunate families who possibly are struggling to afford good coverage, they're even enabling that
Yeah.
capability for those families.
Yeah, that's pretty impressive. All right, so let's talk about a way in which these cities are much more similar, and that is in making education and workforce development a major priority. But again, coming from different histories, coming from doing it in their own unique ways. So, John, what are Bursa's challenges in terms of what's driving them to make such a priority out of education and workforce development, and what specifically are they doing?
Well, I mean, despite the fact that they have like what other major communities at the scale that they're at have. They have educational facilities, of course, post-secondary. They have training and research capabilities. So they have all of those things. But despite all of that, they have a significant unemployment for particularly youth and women.
Hmm.
And so they're really driven to try to figure out ways in which to support those two sectors within the workplace and within their educational and training capabilities. So they've got a number of things. One is I mentioned this Chamber of Commerce with 57,000 members. So they have a number of places where they're training for youth, and they have an office where uh, they work the administration to connect youth, employment, and the needs of the businesses and so forth, to give the youth heads up about what they need to be trained as, but also connecting them to future job opportunities. Same thing with women. Now, I didn't see the actual students while I was there, but I did see a compound up in the hills where they were training women to work in the hospitality industry. There's the restaurants there. There was sort of an agri-food capability and so forth. Lovely environment in which these people were being trained. And in fact, we're multi-generational, where the students might be, teenagers. There would be their mothers, and then their grandmothers, all working in that same environment. So it was a very, I recall, very European model in this particular case. Some of the other things that they are involved in, they have they're developing the capacity to work within environments where they can help the startups to be trained properly, and also in terms of testing the performance of these individuals and companies to be involved in a variety of different programs. I mentioned the model factory. This is one where they purposely create challenges for a company or an individual to go through, and they test their performance. And by testing them several times, they actually increase their performance capabilities. And they test it against not only national but international standards. Those are tremendous training capabilities that, in fact, you don't see very often. That's a huge innovation factor that they have. They also provide access to special training for startups and so forth. So they have the facilities to do this. During my particular site visit, I didn't actually see a lot of those in action, but they did take me to where those facilities are and had me go through some of the training components and so forth.
So did you pass? Did
Well, I usually don't pass these things.
you?
I tend to observe more than when they
Okay.
give me something to try. I go, whoa.
Not every, hey, John, not everybody's got the skills. It's okay.
Right.
Now, am I correct? I mean, first of all, yeah, it's very impressive because they're working on all the aspects, right? From young people who hopefully are coming out of good educational systems, getting them ready for employment, connecting them to employers, which is an absolute intelligent community thing to do. but also folks who are not going to make it otherwise. When I was researching Bursa, I think I read that one of the challenges they're dealing with is they're still in that period of very rapid urbanization that is sort of come and gone, and not gone, it's come and still here with us in most of the Western countries. But they've got this basic continuous influx of people coming in from rural areas because this is where the opportunities are, and they're not just putting them in a favela somewhere. They're actually trying to integrate them into the economy, which I really struck me as very progressive to use.
And there's an issue, of course, with that kind of rapid urbanization. Not only did they grow over 5 decades from under 200,000 people to 3.3 million people, which is staggering. But the unbridled industrial growth that took place also created pollution in terms of air pollution, water pollution. And then they built all these significant buildings, apartment buildings, and other things on an earthquake zone that they now feel, and that's why resiliency and sustainability is a big topic for them. They feel that they need to address because over the years they hadn't addressed it.
Sure.
And instead, now what they've got is a significant planning process. So planning is very important to them. In fact, I met 40 of their planners who are developing their smart city plan to 2050. Most of them are young women, and they have this care, this sense of care, and almost like mothering the city and moving it forward into its future. So this is where a lot of the care comes from. Is it's brought down to these young women, for instance. But I noticed it's like that all the way through. I'll talk a little bit about the mayor later on and what he's doing to do the same thing. But that's one of the things that I came across was how caring they were about all the different elements of their city.
It sounds very familiar, doesn't it, Wendy?
Yes,
Now,
yes.
the state of Ohio was part of the Rust Belt, that band of states that suffered so brutally from the downsizing of America's industrial workforce back in the 80s and 90s. Today, it's a very different place, with very different demands. How is Hilliard changing their education and workforce development in response to this new economy they find themselves in?
Yeah, Hilliard, the city of Hilliard and the school district, of course, are very, very close connected. In fact, I would say that the school district itself is almost the linchpin of the ecosystem there, the innovation ecosystem. It has such an amazing integrated role that's quite central to the whole of the community, in my view. That's really what I observed. They have a director of innovation and extended learning there. I spent a whole afternoon with the school district at all levels of education, and their work they are doing is extraordinary. Their collaborations again and their partnerships with Amazon Web Services, with Apple, the way that the same director also is the chair of the Hilliard Development Corporation, integrated there. You as well see that collaboration happening with private sector right across the board, the collaboration happening with the city labs and internships going backwards and forwards there. Their mission and their values and their vision for the school district is all about creating work-ready students and graduates, be it ready for university, be it ready for enlistment in the forces, be it ready for industry. They have managed to equip their schools with the latest technology through their partnerships and collaborations, so that when a student graduates and goes into the workplace, they already have the experience with the different equipment. If they haven't got it at the school district, chances are they've got it at the city labs. So because of that close connection and collaboration, you're getting students coming out of there that have exceptional skills and abilities. And of course, I asked about the soft skills and how much focus is put on the soft skills as well, and the ability to communicate and build relationships. And they haven't lost sight of that either. I mean, that is a huge part of their curriculum as well as they develop their students. It was an extremely robust system. I mean, I couldn't think of anything it wasn't covering. And I did have the opportunity to meet with a group of students. I think there was at least 6 students. And just to tell you the impression that this school district has on these students, one of the students was already at Ohio State University, OSU, and she left university to come back to the school because she really felt she wanted to share her story with me on, how she'd experienced the school district, and how now she was in post-secondary environment, she realized how exceptional that school district was and how it had prepared her when she saw all around her really struggling to acclimatize to the new environment. She was ready to go. She knew exactly what to expect and she hit the ground running. And so she wanted to share that story and she came back to meet with me specifically. I also got to meet with the range of students from different classes, different age groups, different grades. And I made a point of asking them as well if anybody had been elsewhere for part of their education and how it compared, to give me a bit of an insight from the student perspective if they really saw a difference with what they were trying to do in Hilliard. And these ambassadors were very well trained, Robert, because they all sang the praises of the Hilliard School District and how what they were delivering there was truly exceptional to anywhere else that they might have studied. And I think so, when you've had the opportunity to look at that phenomenon that's happening in Hilliard, you can see how they're creating that workforce that is also going to continue to propel Hilliard forward into the future.
Sure. When I was there a year ago or more, I had a similar meeting, and one of the young people said something that really got my attention. He said, until I went out and did one of these internship things with, I think it was the city lab, he said, I had no idea that we were doing this. And now that I know that, I've got a completely different view of the city that I'm growing up in. I just thought that is the simplest and yet most profound problem in so many places, that young people grow up in that place and they do not know anything about the local economy or the local opportunities. And so they leave. And
Yeah, yeah, totally.
it's a simple thing, right?
Yeah,
But
yeah. And I
they,
do think
they
as well that they also gives them a sense of confidence, and they feel that they're equipped for the future. And it's not a daunting thing anymore to leave the comfort of the school environment because they've been so well prepared. It is interesting to see. I mean, nearly every community has relationships with their school districts, of course, and understands the school district's role in creating that workforce of the future. And even at the elementary school, it was super impressive with the discovery labs and the zones that they create for very, very young people. And, it's just amazing that it's not a relationship with the school district here. They are central to everything. And it came up in nearly every conversation I had, be it with coffee shop owners who had noticed the difference with their kids going to school in Hilliard compared to where they used to be. So I have no qualms in saying that what they are doing in that school district is exceptional to elsewhere in the United States for sure.
well, I hope somebody from Hilliard is listening to this. So ICF's research shows that economic development today is not about the things that we might have thought it was about, but today it's about creating a business ecosystem in your community that fosters innovation in existing businesses and also fosters the creation of new ones. So could each of you give us an example or two of what Hilliard and Bursa are doing to create and grow that kind of ecosystem? And Wendy, let's start with you.
Yeah, I mean, Hilliard have realized economic development 101, really. It's about people and it's about relationships. And yes, that is the skills that are needed to build and foster and develop ecosystems. And, when you look at the Hilliard ecosystem, the City Lab facilities, obviously, it's central to what they're doing on the innovation front. They have 40 businesses in there now. They've expanded the complex already, once already. That is already full. They have a waiting list. They provide grants to help startups through the Hilliard Development Corp, but it's the way that they do that. So they work with the businesses to identify if they have a good model to start with, whether the model is going to be a good fit for what they're trying to do. They try and eliminate the red tape. They help them fill in the grant paperwork. They hold their hands through the bureaucracy. They do everything they can to facilitate a yes at all levels of local government. So the word is out on the street locally. I had lunch, we had a networking lunch with a number of businesses. Some were in the City Lab, some had been in Hilliard for a while, others were fairly new to the community, but they all had the same thing to say, that they really respected the culture of the city of Hilliard and the ability to facilitate a yes, if at all possible, and to work with them on their vision and their plans. And I think, when you're trying to develop an innovation ecosystem, it's so important because a number of the businesses had said they had tried to do what they're doing in other communities. And these other communities had actually said to them, you need to go to Hilliard because they'll help you create reality from that vision. So, it's word of mouth. And once the word of mouth starts and the grapevine starts running, the ecosystem's going to start feeding itself.
One of the things I remember seeing was, in addition to all the other things you've talked about, which are all incredibly important, they're not afraid, the Hilliard government is not afraid to pick up the phone and try to get NASA to pay attention or the FAA to pay attention or the US Army to pay attention to one of their companies.
Mhm.
And so they just, through this, they never stop.
No, no, they really don't. It was actually exhausting to watch, Robert, to be honest, because honestly, it's very impressive. It really is.
You
That's
gotta,
why I said with their punching well above their size.
you gotta wonder what's in the water. But anyway,
It really, really does. Yeah,
but
yeah.
how about Bursa? Where are they in this ecosystem development process? And what's an example or two that,
Yeah.
show it to us?
So I've alluded to some of those. It's a because it's such a big city, 3.3 million people in their metropolitan municipality. They already have lots of innovation going on. Excuse me, innovation going on in the industries that are there, whether it's food or textile, automotive, and so forth. Um, but they also are working towards dealing with not only the unemployment issues, but other businesses as they evolve and the innovation that is coming as a result of AI and whatnot. So they have a thing called the Smart City Academy, which does a lot of training. They have a facility for nurturing the smart startups as well as nurturing accelerated companies. So they do training and they figure out ways in which to fund them and so forth. But they have a multifaceted approach out at the university. They have a techno park with a lot of businesses that I personally went to visit. They connected me to 5 companies, and I saw different aspects of those companies. Some large accelerated companies, and some others a little bit smaller. Again, asking them about the future of telecom and how it affects them. not a problem. They have sales in a variety of very smart businesses, and they're going to be accelerated further with 5G coming forward. What I found that was really smart was the use of this SME-based Chamber of Commerce. With 57,000 members, they were able to pull together these sort of significant ecosystems to nurture business development. I mentioned earlier this sort of facility called the Model Factory. So how do you create the best performance of your business and your individuals? And that is to keep them on their toes and create the best environment possible for them to perform in. They have to compete internationally. They have to figure out ways in which to take their business to another level. And this model factory, it's actually a factory with a line and different things, but they also have it with the automotive. So they've got cars that they'll put you through the test. They'll take things out of the process and make you go through it to see if you can figure out how to solve the problem in a very unique and innovative way, and maybe come up with something completely different as a result. So this model factory has created opportunities in Bursa for completely new industries and business activity to create it. But it also works with the members of that base of the Chamber of Commerce to give them a better involvement in innovative opportunities as they move forward.
Yeah, that's a great example, right? Because it's this shared use infrastructure they create that generates activity in so many different areas, and it's something that we see in a lot of intelligent communities. What have I left out so far? Okay, so I've raised a couple of topics, but if you think about your trip there and your exhausting time that you spent, what can you just tell us one thing that you think sort of stayed with you after you left the city that maybe we haven't talked about yet? John?
Well, for me, it was witnessing the mayor of Bursa, Mayor Mustafa Busby. He is a fellow who, his leadership style impressed me. First of all, he came as a local mayor from one of the 17 districts, and then became mayor of this metropolitan municipality. But he took his various ideas, innovation and solution driven reputation that he had, and brought it to the metropolitan municipality and said, he came in 2 years ago and said, I have to be involved with all 17 districts. So every 2 weeks, he has a program. The mayor is here. It's basically a mobile system of a big bus, a whole bunch of tents, and it's like a fairground wherever he goes in each of the districts. And it's not what other people think, having a town hall meeting or having a visit by the mayor to give a speech or something in a church or wherever. This is moving into the community and spending the whole day and not stopping until the last person has been talked with. It's like a fairground. You arrive, there are all these tents, 23 different divisions of his municipal organization are there with their senior people. They're accountable. It's completely transparent. And these people come with their issues. Now, some of those issues may be very private issues. Most of them are on the basis of the community. So they'll deal with traffic issues. They'll deal with environmental issues. They'll deal with long-term sustainability things. And it's not just about reporting. It's about trying to solve that problem right then and there. And if they don't solve it within the tent of that particular division, they then go in to meet the mayor. And the mayor then works with the local community individual and with the head of that department And I sat there and watched some of these. Some of them were very private, can you somehow help my kid get a job in your city? And, okay, we'll pass them along. But some of them were real issues, housing related issues, traffic related issues. And the mayor then put the senior individual to the test and said, how can we solve this here and now? And there were some red faces, but by and large, they figured it out. Now, the mayor later on said, we don't solve every issue, but a lot of them go through that process and they can get solved. I found that a very, very unique approach and innovative governance. That's it. I really love that,
That's
that process.
remarkable story. Wendy, what did you bring home with you from your time in Hilliard?
I think what really impressed me most is probably the follow-on for people who are familiar with Hilliard and a bit of their story, are probably familiar with the story or the background about what drove the creation of the Health and Wellness Centre there. Their growth in demographics, in millennials, their need for new activities and amenities, and of course the story of how they went out and engaged in a fairly substantial community engagement process to gain the increase in taxation that was necessary to fund and sustain a health and wellness centre. So the Health and Wellness Centre has been in the planning since 2022. When I arrived there, it had been open for 33 days. So I got the opportunity through timing really to spend a good couple of hours or so at the well, as it's called. And I have to say how impressive it was. It's adjacent to a medical centre, so if you need physio or any of those health supplies, that's right next door. But the well itself, they went through a considerable amount of engagement in the planning stages of that. Not only did they do the usual thing with open houses and surveys, they looked at that engagement and then they identified groups of people that hadn't contributed, who hadn't been able to engage with the planning phase. And then they deliberately went out and sought those groups. And some of those groups were the Muslim community. The Muslim community makes up about 7% of the demographic in Hilliard now. It's a growing segment. They went out and engaged with that component. Again, the same with the community that needed accessibility needs met. They went out specifically and engaged with them. And they not only captured all that input in the planning stage, they made sure that when they opened the facility, every aspect of community could see themselves in the building, reflected in the building. So not only with engagement, it isn't the engagement process, it's valuing that engagement so much that you incorporate that into the actions and the deliverables. So that was extremely impressive. And, as I went on a tour of the facilities and I saw the senior side, they took me to a little tiny room called a wudu room, WUDU, and it's for the Muslim community to bathe, to wash their hands and feet. And adjacent to that, they had allocated a prayer room for them because they have to pray 5 times a day. And it was just the little touches like that that said to me that it was so thoughtful to make sure that every aspect of the community not only could access from accessibility perspective, but from a cultural perspective, those needs and desires had also been taken into consideration. And the head of the centre was saying that many of the neighbouring communities now are coming around for tours to learn, and again, leadership has been shown by Hilliard on how to create something as a health and wellness centre, whereas a lot of people are just thinking on the recreational side and not necessarily thinking about the cultural side of things.
Very interesting. Well, we're running out to our last minute or two of time. I just want to ask each of you in a sentence or two, to explain. You've just given your time, you've gone and traveled to a place, you've been exhausted by what you saw as well as inspired. Why do you think the work that you just put in matters? Why is it important to test the intelligence of a community? Wendy?
I think because intelligent communities are a lot more than just technology-driven communities. It's where social, cultural, and economic all come together. It's where each are equally important. It's important that we test our intelligent communities too on a regular basis. We're in a very dynamic and evolving world. We're very politically driven communities as well. And it's important to know that if a community is designated an intelligent community, that it's authentic and it's genuine and it's responsive, and it continues to ensure that the residents of that community truly have a great quality of life and that the community can all prosper together.
Do it all in a digital economy that's changing at light speed. John,
Totally.
why is the testing of an intelligence for a community important?
Well, apart from the fact that we have this awards program, and there are many reasons why communities go after awards, I think for us actually to be there and go to these places, it raises awareness, and it raises awareness not only internationally when we write about it of those communities, but it raises awareness within the community. A lot of these communities don't even know that this is happening, and as a result, it's one of the best things that they can learn about. Now, some of them are dubious and skeptical, but most people in those communities exhibit that pride that they are being recognized in this way, and it does something more. They then recognize that they are a best practice. Some of these communities are saying, we thank you for making us aware that we are a best practice in the world. It gives us and raises our awareness, but also others' awareness who then may come to our community for trade and for business and talent and so forth. But one of the key things for me as an auditor going into a top 7 community is the fact that I learn about those communities and the scale at which they exist related to how they take their scarce resources to be able to do something that another community, which has a lot of resources, can just easily wave their hand and have something, a budget, pay for it. Whereas these other communities learn how to do more with less. And they come up with innovative ways of doing something, then that by itself becomes the best practice. But even more so, within the community, it gives them a drive to create those new opportunities as businesses, as new ways of training, and it creates a whole new kind of ecosystem, whether it's innovation or it has to do with the spiritual or governance or whatever it happens to be. They do something so unique that we then turn to them and say, you are a best practice. We want to tell the world about you. And hence the reason for us doing this whole exercise of identifying them as Smart 21 cities and then eventually top 7s in Intelligent Community Year.
In the case of Hilliard, certifying them as an intelligent community. That is all we have time for. Wendy, John, thank you so much for, first of all, being ICF auditors and also for sharing your insights with us today.
Great. Thank you, Robert.
For more on Hilliard or Bursa, you can find detailed profiles at intelligentcommunity.org by clicking on the Network menu. While you're there, you can also learn more about ICF, and you can also explore having ICF certify your city or region as an intelligent community. Visit icfcertification.com for details. Intelligence Test will be back next month to take you inside a remarkable U.S. community in conversation with its CIO and the ICF auditor who assessed it. For ICF, this is Robert Bell.